Hello to you. Good morning. It is Ireland M and it's Monday morning.
It really is. You're at Virgin Media 1. It is the 9th of January and we have lots on the way as always.
Now, has Prince Harry finally gone nuclear with his latest claims about the royal family? We're going to be reviewing all the revelations from last night's tell-all interview that was aired right here on Virgin Media 1.
Did you watch it?
I watched a bit of it, yeah.
So did I. Loads of opinions. We'll chat about it in just a little while. You seem to like him a little bit better since the interview, though.
I like Harry. I have no issue with him. Listen, poor guy. He's troubled. Seems to be very happy now. He reveals a lot.
Chat about it in just a little while. Also on the show, we love when this fella talks to us. How to find happiness with the doctor of happiness himself. Andy Cope is going to be here.
Love chatting to him. Now, someone else who's looking forward to having back in the studio is acclaimed singer Camille O'Sullivan to chat about playing iconic French chanteuse Edith Piaf.
This morning, our Deric is channeling his inner Bob Ross. Deric, you're getting RT later on?
I am indeed. We're not filling in a few seconds, but first up in terms of weather, it was a wet and windy night, plenty of blustery showers out there backed by that strong westerly wind, especially for the earlier part of the day, improving later on before the rain. More of it on the way later on tonight. But as you mentioned, we're off for a painting class this morning. A great hobby if you're looking to start something fresh for the new year. And guys, I'm just looking at the picture of Bob Ross here. we're kind of twinning, aren't we? If I get the curls, if I let them grow a little bit longer now. What do you think?
Zoom in at home.
We'll try and get that picture of the big screen behind you here. But I think you'd look great with a nice perm, Deric. Absolutely. Listen, good stuff. We're looking forward to seeing you painting later on. But now it's time to find out what kind of world we're waking up to this morning. Over to Cliodhna Russell.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning. A pilot scheme comes into effect in the Midwest today to try to tackle the overcrowding in hospital emergency departments. From this morning, paramedics in the region will be able to consult with doctors at Ennis Hospital to decide if they can be treated there rather than at University Hospital Limerick. UHL has been one of the country's most overcrowded hospitals in recent days. Nationally, frontline staff say the overcrowding crisis is having an impact on frontline staff and patients.
I mean, every year we get some form of flu season. Obviously, this year is coming on the back as well of COVID and a particularly strong strain of the flu. So obviously that's been impacting our patients, with patients getting unwell with that, but staff as well have been coming unwell. And obviously the fact that they're working in stressful shift work nights and weekends, they can be, as you say, burnt out mentally and physically, and then when they become unwell on top of that, we've certainly have had staff members becoming unwell, but also then that has a knock-on impact.
In Brazil, supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who refused to accept his election defeat, have stormed Congress, the Supreme Court and the presidential palace a week after the inauguration of his leftist rival, President Lula da Silva. Thousands of demonstrators climbed on roofs and broke windows while invading the buildings. Some called for a military intervention to either restore the far-right Bolsonaro to power or oust Lula from the presidency. Footage released by the Presidential Palace Media Department, which said the images were filmed by government personnel, showed the damage to offices and lobby areas this morning. The US President Joe Biden has made his first trip to the US border with Mexico since taking office. His visit follows his recent announcement of a more stringent immigration policy ahead of his visit. Many seeking to enter the US staged protests.
The US President made his first visit as office holder to the US southern border with Mexico yesterday. The atmosphere was tense ahead of his arrival. Hundreds of demonstrators, including some seeking to enter the US, are angry at Joe Biden's recent moves on migration. The president announced last week that Cubans, Nicaraguans, Haitians and Venezuelans will be expelled to Mexico if they enter the US illegally, an expansion of a pandemic-era immigration policy called Title 42. The new rules will also include offering humanitarian parole for up to 30,000 people a month from those 4 countries if they apply online and find a financial sponsor. The President has come in for criticism from Republicans and even some border Democrats for not acting on the numbers seeking to enter the US. His homeland team describing it as a crisis. Joe Biden is travelling to Mexico City today for a 2-day summit with North American leaders, where migration is expected to top the agenda. Marie Mulcahy, Virgin Media News.
The first ever space launch from UK soil is scheduled to take place today if weather conditions allow. The launch window for the Start Me Up mission is due to start at around 9:40, but there won't be the fire and noise of a NASA launch. Instead, a modified Boeing 747 dubbed Cosmic Girl will carry the rocket, which contains a number of small satellites, to 35,000 feet before it fires into space and reaches 8,000 miles per hour. It'll happen about an hour after takeoff, and the event will be live streamed online.
I think I'd say immense excitement. Who would not be excited by the fact that this is the first time that it's been done in Europe? And it's because it's hard, right? And we've managed to crack all of those problems. But there is a point when the training takes over. And as Mel said, you kind of fall into that rhythm of the teams know what they need to do.
And finally, it was a case of snow snakes on a plane in the US. Transport security in Tampa, Florida have shared X-ray pictures of a passenger's luggage showing a snake coiled up in a corner. The reptile was spotted in carry-on luggage at the airport on Friday.
For car insurance, van insurance or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Thank you very much, Joe. We're live here in Balgriffin in North County Dublin this morning. We have got a painting class coming your way later on this morning, so get your canvases ready and your easels on standby. So that's all to come right across the next couple of hours. Anyway, let's take an opening look at weather together now with Alan Fraser with us on camera. It's the 9th of the month. We're pulling back the curtains on a pretty wet and a pretty windy start out there this morning. Quite cold as well. Plenty of showers through Connacht into southern Ulster, through parts of Munster as well. Just about holding drier as we edge our way into the eastern Midlands through parts of Leinster as well, in those strong and locally gusty westerly winds. Now right across today it's a real mixed bag. Plenty of scattered showers on the way, especially across the northern half of the island. Now those winds easing back towards the back end of the day, so an improving picture later on this Monday. Top temps to 6 to 9 degrees. Finally then tonight, conditions will settle for a time with those showers clearing off, but through the southwest then more problems kicking in, because we have a band of rain pulling in first up into Cork and Kerry. That's the first pit stop, and that'll track in a northerly direction. Some very heavy rain with an ongoing risk of spot flooding, and we're expecting a very wet and indeed a very windy day then into your Tuesday, with those winds veering to the south and overnight lows again on the chilly side back to 1 to 4 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in a windy and blustery Balgriffin at the moment. We'll catch again back live at 7:35.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote.
On the way on Ireland AM, we're going to be speaking to the daughter of an 88-year-old woman who was left waiting 27 hours for a hospital bed.
Yeah, we're going to be discussing Ireland's hospital crisis after the break. Don't go away. You're very welcome back. Now, the Irish Nurses and Midwives Organisation has warned that the overcrowding problems in hospitals should be treated as a national crisis.
And of course, we've heard this so many times before. Joining us to discuss is Marie O'Connor, whose mother was left waiting for a hospital bed for hours, and also Dr. Mick Molloy, consultant in emergency medicine. Thank you both so much for being here. And Mick will be with you very shortly, because you've been seeing this for years. But can we talk about your mother, Christina, 88 years old? What happened? How long was she left waiting to be seen?
Well, what happened was Mam was admitted to the emergency department in UHL at 3 p.m. on the Tuesday, and unfortunately failed to see a doctor till 10 a.m. on the following day, which was the 28th.
And was she left sitting in a chair the whole time?
Yes, she sat in a chair in the Zone B of UHL.
88 years old.
She's actually near 89 now.
No, she'll love you saying that now, won't you? What was it like? inside in the ED of University Hospital Limerick?
Well, to be honest with you, I think people were in disbelief. Like, first we actually met the triage nurse and he examined Mam and said, look, we're going to refer her back up to Zone B, which we went up and sat there. So he was debating, there was bloods to be done. So we were just waiting on the bloods. And the next thing then this patient came in and was brought in by ambulance. And she said, you do know, she said, there's a 20-hour waiting time. And I said, no, I said, well, I thought it was only for herself. So I didn't think, I thought we'd be in, have her chest x-ray done. And then like this, you know, they were going to treat Man because I did take her to the walk-in clinic. We failed to get in touch with Shannon Doc. I mean, the reports all say they were taking a call a minute, but we failed. So I said I'd take her into the walk-in clinic, and they didn't want to administer any medication because they felt they'd prefer for her chest to be x-rayed. Now, she had shortness of breath as well, and I suppose, look, her age and all the other contributory factors, and they decided to refer her in.
In terms of what you saw in there, though, because we heard stories of back-to-back trolleys, people being pushed down corridors just to try and find the space. Like, how chaotic was it inside the hospital?
It was absolutely mayhem, and that even one of the staff himself said it was mayhem. Like, to be honest about it, the Zone B where we were actually waiting in was just couches and that, you know. But actually, the nurses' stations. I remember standing up at one stage and kind of looking in disbelief, like it's like looking through a double door and going, there was a trolley here, then there was about that much of a space, and then there was a trolley again. And that was both sides of the nurses' station. So I suppose I looked in and kind of said, oh, you know, we might get called, but we were waiting. Then we were afraid to go to the bathroom because you're afraid to go to the bathroom in case your name is called. And the next thing then you're feeling... So we had a little group of our own then saying, well, if Nana's called, will you mind her? And I'll mind, you know, until you come back. And if you do get called, but none of us got called. Nobody at all got called from our group. So at 8:30 then I decided I'd go in and a nurse came out about 9 o'clock and I said to her, look, is Mam getting bloods done? Because my mother's veins are not good. So she's to be kept hydrated and warm. Because I was saying, look, I'll make this as a simple... Because we've had 20 incidents where it's just that they failed to get blood, and I wanted to keep everything as good as I could so that experience wouldn't be traumatic for Mam.
You're lucky that you were there for your mum. You know, there's a lot of elderly people who've had to go to these hospital situations that have not had support there. Mick, you know what this situation is like, you know, stranger to it. How bad is it over the last couple of days?
So, well, it's not even the last couple of days, Tommy. And to be honest, I said it to one of the journalists who called me, that we only get calls when it's a record number. And we've now been cultured to accept the 100, the 200, the 400, the 500. It's only when it gets to 800, 900 that we're getting these calls now. But this hasn't gone away for nearly 20 years. There's been bed reports, capacity reports, crisis forums, crisis communications, and it hasn't really changed. It's an issue related to acute bed capacity. We have the lowest bed capacity in the EU. Yeah. We have an exceptional number of people who turn up in the hospital at times, which makes it very bad. I won't say in the normal course of events, 1 or 2 hospitals are over capacity, significantly over capacity. But in the last week, it's been every single hospital. And I know a lot has been said about one particular hospital where there's no trolleys. It's interesting to note that one hospital has had an extra build in the last few years that was opened up.
Huge
Hence, a new build, no trolleys. It's a eureka moment. Yeah. You build the extra beds, you don't have trolleys. And that's the experiment our system has seen. So why haven't we done that across the country?
I'm just wondering, Mick, you've been working in this for years, and we know that doctors...
I'm not as old as I look.
Well, we know. I'm so sorry. Between Christina and the 89, this is terrible. He only qualified 3 years ago. But, like, I just want to know, and the numbers have been bandied about, 6,000 extra acute beds back in 1981 when we were a developing country and we didn't have all this money. The health budget is huge, with more money being pumped in every single year. Where's the money going?
And that's something I can't answer, because there's a lot of money, additional money gone into the health service, gone into other strategic areas. It's gone into trying to develop community initiatives. Some of those are great, but they will take a long time to have an effect. Some of the things were brought in to try, or some of the extra budget has been to try and address other structural capacity defects, how to fix leaky roofs, how to fix mouldy walls. We're spending a lot of money redoing up ancient buildings in some places, which might be better off being knocked and rebuilt again. But the simple fact is, in 2002, when the current Taoiseach was health minister, they brought out their own report. If it was my report, people could criticise it and say that, sorry, you know, we don't believe your numbers. This is the Department of Health report from 2002 saying they wanted 5,000 extra beds by 2011. Now, not a single one of them was built anywhere.
So when Stephen Donnelly comes out and talks about how he wants consultants to work longer hours, work more weekends, with Dr. Lisa Cunningham on last weekend, you could see the frustration in her eyes when she was... And the disappointment. You know, we're meant to be part of the same team here. And we're trying to fight a great fight. So and the blame is being put...
I've worked internationally, excuse me, in quite a lot of systems. I worked in the States, and similar hospitals in the States to us here would have between 55 and 60 consultants in the emergency department. The one I work in has 2.
Wow. 2.
So even if we worked tag team where we never saw each other, we still wouldn't cover the whole 168 hours in the week.
But we can't. There are so many doctors and consultant posts vacant in this country. We cannot fill them, and we're training doctors every year, and they're just going, right, I'm out of here, like Mick.
But they are and they aren't. I mean, the people who are leaving at the very first year, just after their first year, and they're looking at how they've been treated in that particular year, going, the grass must be greener somewhere else. They're going to Australia, partly for a lifestyle. Some go and some come back. But in recent years, what you had hoped is some of the people who are leaving towards the end of their medical training, because there's no absolute stepwise system in this, just like in professional rugby. You go through the academy, there's no guarantee you're going to get a senior contract. You go through SPR training in the Irish hospital system, there's no guarantee you're going to get a consultant contract. You finish on the 1st of July 1 year, and that's it, you are unemployed. And you have to look and say, right, a year beforehand, I need to plan where I'm going to be next year. Am I going to be in London, Manchester, Boston, Sydney or Melbourne to try and advance my career in a different health service, and then hope to apply to come back to the consultant jobs? It didn't help that overnight, 12 years ago, one of the ministers decided to cut the consultant salary by 30%. We really didn't have a problem in recruitment up to then. All of a sudden now we've nearly 1,000 vacancies. There are strategies to try and bring in other people into the system, and I'd put a proposal to the HSE which got almost zero traction. There's a lot of Irish students who cannot get into medical school here, and they're in medical schools in Europe, and they don't integrate back into the system very well because they can't apply for a first-year job. They're applying for a second-year job without the first-year experience because of the technical qualification they get in Europe, which is slightly higher than the qualification we get in our universities.
It's such a puzzle.
But that's amazing, because we were talking to one of the girls who was trapped in Ukraine, and she was over there doing her medical.
She was in first year or second year medicine. But when they qualify with a different title of their degree. So technically they cannot apply for a first year job in Ireland. So they're now applying for a second year job without first year experience. Plus, you can do all the book work in medicine, but you also have to do the patient contact. And when you're in another language, they may not have all the language skills to do that. They need a bridging programme. And UCD had put together a bridging programme for these, but we just couldn't get it funded. And there's hundreds of these students who want to come back.
When you say the funding, but the amount of funding that is going into the HSE to fix leaky roofs, to try and get the hospitals up to standard, so we don't have your mum sitting on a bed or on a seat for 27. Can I ask, how is she?
She's actually, she's over the worst now. It's been 2 weeks and she's certainly over the worst. She's not still out of the woods completely, but she's definitely on the road to, please God, a full recovery now.
Just on that example in Limerick, I mean, I'm not specifically talking about Limerick Hospital per se, but that region was one of the first that was reconfigured, as they call it. And you would have hoped that in the reconfiguration, you're trying to develop public confidence in the system. You'd develop up the hub in the region while you're closing the emergency departments in the spokes areas. They didn't. They closed the emergency departments, left University Hospital as it was, foundering with the volume of patients they cope with. You have people who get put into ambulances, driven 50, 60 extra miles at night time, and now at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock to get discharged, there's nowhere to go. There's no transport home. It's a capacity problem across the board.
And I know that you work within rural transport around the place, trying to coordinate these sort of things as part of your job as well, Marie, so you are seeing this firsthand. Listen, it's ongoing. And unfortunately, we're going to see an awful lot more of this with the respiratory diseases we have around. Marie O'Connor and Dr. Mick Molloy, thank you both so much for being here with us this morning. And we are hoping that Christina doesn't kill you when you get home talking about her age and her birthday. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
And we'd love to hear from you regarding your hospital experience, if you have one or if a family member was in there, or indeed if you work within the health service. 0896 111 111.
Please do get in touch. We've lots more Ireland then coming up after this short break. Now, ahead of the release of his memoir, Prince Harry's tell-all certainly is interview aired last night on Virgin Media 1.
Has Harry gone too far with his latest revelations? I don't think so. Let's take a look at some of the highlights.
I don't know how staying silent is ever going to make things better.
Wouldn't your brother say to you, Harry, how could you do this to me? After everything we went through, wouldn't that be what he would say?
He'd probably say all sorts of different things.
Some people will say, you have railed against invasions of your privacy all your life. But the accusation will be, here are you invading the privacy of your most nearest and dearest without permission. That'll be the accusation.
That would be the accusation from the people that don't understand or don't want to believe that my family have been briefing the press.
If you're invited to the coronation, will you come?
There's a lot that can happen between now and then. But, you know, the door is always open. The ball is in their court. There's a lot to be discussed, and I really hope that they are willing to sit down and talk about it.
Do you still believe in the monarchy?
Yes.
Do you believe you'll play a part in its future?
I don't know.
The music is so ominous. What does it all mean for the royal family, Henry McKean? It's lovely to have you here with us this morning. It's great to see that the British royal family has just turned into Towie without the hair extensions.
Well,
it's unbelievable. It's
one side of it has.
The backbiting and the telling us everything that's going on. Fabulous.
It is a bit like EastEnders or maybe Dynasty or Dallas. There's definitely a bit of that. It was a difficult watch. I watched it last night on Virgin Media, an hour and a half with ad breaks, but I was gripped. It was a difficult watch. And I know my wife actually started shouting at the TV. She got very frustrated with Harry because he kept going back to the media, the tabloids. And there was just so much anger and so much bitterness.
The bit I saw the start of it, and it started off talking about Diana and his mother's death. And I think that this is the whole thing about it. The guy is traumatised by something that happened to him very early in his life in the public spotlight, and he's never been able to grieve, and he just looks and sounds like a troubled guy the whole way through.
And when he said Tommy, when he mentions, you know, I only got to cry once, and he talks about shaking hands after his mother died with the public, and their hands were wet, and he didn't know why, because tears from the crowd, and he couldn't cry. You're right, he talks about mental health, he talks about his mental health battles and the difficulties he's faced, and for me, of course, huge empathy. He lost his mum at the age of 12. He grew up in the spotlight. He wants out. This is him. You know, he talks about truth. This is his truth. He's telling us how it is, but he's breaking down barriers, and he's upsetting a lot of people. Like the English tabloids today are full of it. I mean, he's giving them so much fodder. He talks about he wants privacy, but then he goes and, you know, opens up this whole Fab Four thing with Willie, as he's now called.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. I think one of the most arresting things from last night was when he said that he wanted to be driven through the tunnel that his mother died in when he was 20 years old, and he was over there for the World Cup, and he asked for her case file. And he said that he saw pictures reflected his mother's blonde hair, mummy's blonde hair, and then he saw people taking photographs and no one helping her. It was awful to in his words, to hear something that we all remember where we were when Diana died. It's a world event.
He talks about that too. He says we all remember, and he obviously remembers. He talks about his father, darling boy, you know, at the end of the bed, explaining his mother died.
You can see why he has an issue with the tabloid press when his mother's dying and they're not helping.
Of course, and he talks about the chain. He talks about this bicycle chain, and she wouldn't have died if basically the paparazzi weren't there. He strongly hints that perhaps the paparazzi distracted the driver that was drinking and that did drive into the pillar. And I know that tunnel. I bumped into it by accident in Paris once, and it's just a very small tunnel. And of course, there's huge sympathy, and he's entitled to speak out. But I think he's gone a bit too far. I think there's a lot of moaning.
He seemed quite complimentary of his father. He spoke about huge love, huge respect for him, and how his dad had to try and father these two boys through that grief.
Yeah,
maybe he wasn't ready for it.
He was a single parent.
But Camilla, he he's quite scathing.
Well, I mean, that's
Camilla.
really interesting. He's scathing, but he's not scathing because he talks about the evil stepmother. But then he goes back a bit and says, you know, we did get along with her. But you're right. He also says that there was briefing. He talks about briefing against each other, about how she was like almost in rehab to try and make her acceptable to the British public, to the world. So yeah, he gives her a little hard time, but I don't think he's that hard.
Okay.
I think he's really quite hard on Kate, and he's really quite hard. And we discovered his nickname is Harold and Willie. I'm going to call him William. He's very hard on them. I think he holds fire, you could say, a little bit.
Well, it's quite interesting in the interview when he said that when Camilla was coming into the fold that they were rehabilitating her image, and therefore a summit that she had with William, and William certainly didn't give it to the press, but next thing it ends up in the press, and he's like, well, the only person who could have said it was Camilla and given it to them. So he does say, he makes blatant...
He does nail her
He does, but there are loads of revelations. We're joined also by broadcaster Nels Abbey this morning. Good morning, Nels. It's lovely to have you here. You were watching the interview as well last night. Loads of revelations. What's your reaction to it, from the fact that the Fab Four never really got along, to Camilla, to his father?
It was fascinating. Perhaps the biggest, one of the biggest revelations was that it was all just seems like it's very, very stage-managed relationship. That it's less of a family and less of a significantly much more of a firm, and they do what they need to do in order to actually maintain their relevance. And it's a fascinating way in which their dynasty is managed. It's quite clearly Prince Harry was never really comfortable with it in the slightest bit. I think that for me there were so many things that came out of it. The relationship with Camilla, the relationship with his mother also, and the effect it had on his life and how it shaped his life purpose. His thoughts on the British media in particular, and how he considered it his life's purpose to ensure there is reform within British media, and it becomes, as he put it, less racist and less unconsciously biased. There were some things there were some moments that just went by that were swept under, but were pretty fascinating. For example, when it was revealed or stated that Harry's biggest, that William and Harry were arguing over whose property or who gets to keep Africa as their patch. I found that just really, really fascinating, something you hear in 2022. But yeah, overarchingly, I think it was a solid and sound interview. It did its purpose, which is promote the book. In terms of actual relationships with the royal family and the future of the royal family, we shall see what it holds.
He said how happy he is. He's got 2 gorgeous children, beautiful wife, living out in California, now millions in the bank. What's the purpose of it? Like, what does he want? What's next?
It feels like Prince Harry's been waiting to exhale for a long time. It feels like he's had a lot of things on his mind. He's had a lot of things he's held deep within himself for a very, very long time. He's had to bite his tongue, but for a very long time. It's quite clear he looks at the way his wife was treated and feels a sense of betrayal there. And it feels like right now that he wants to tell his own story from his own perspective. And quite clearly, of course, too, as he stated in the Oprah Winfrey interview, he was cut off financially. So the young man has to make money. And the best way he can probably make money is giving the people what they want or what they want to hear, and possibly the most gossiped about family in the world. He gave them stories about that family. He gave them his story, which he's entitled to do. Yeah. I think if there's anything that we all learn from this, it's the old Godfather saying with a little bit of twist on it. Keep your friends close, your enemies even closer, but keep your family closest. Because the last thing you want is for your family to become your enemies, because they know the real you and they know your secrets and everything else, and you don't want them revealing them to the world.
Absolutely. And it was just, they kept on playing excerpts from the book, his audiobook. His voice is fantastic. Does have a lovely voice. Beautiful voice. Of course, we'll all wait to see if he's going to be at the coronation, Charles's coronation, which is coming up at some stage this year. That would be squeaky bum time. It's like,
how himself and William, like he's, as Nels has just said, himself and William, it'd be interesting to see if that can ever be repaired. Really,
yeah, it will. Listen, that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much, Henry McKean and Nels Abbey, both for joining us this morning. And of course, we want you to get involved in this conversation. So if you open up your phone, take out your phone, open up your camera, you can scan the QR code here. There we go, there. And to vote in our survey, let us know, do you think Prince Harry should stop talking? Yes or No, oversharing. I don't think he's oversharing. Anyway, that's just me.
Really?
It's just his story.
You really want to know where he lost his virginity at the back of a shed?
100%.
Or if he's circumcised or not?
Delighted that he told us that.
After the break, we're going to be taking a look at the other stories making this morning's newspapers. See you shortly.
Back, there's a huge amount going on in the world, not just Prince Harry. There's an insurrection happening in Brazil. There's so much going on, but joining us for a closer look at some of the stories making the news this morning is Gabia Gadavishketa from the Irish Independent.
And whatever about storming buildings, a lack of Calpol. There would be storming of pharmacies all over the country if this was actually to be what's the case.
Well, listen, like we are hearing government saying we have a perfect storm of flu, COVID, RSV, and of course we are seeing a lot of sick children as a result. So yes, Calpol is on that list of medicines that are short, which has over 200 products on it. So including Calpol, you know, those common cold flu medicines, also high blood pressure medicines that are also very important, also dissolvable painkillers, which I thought was quite interesting. A lot of those medicines that are on that list that's been reported in the papers today, actually 40% of them only have one supplier. So if anything was to happen to that one supplier, you know, you'd have to sell it unlicensed, which of course pharmacists cannot do.
Okay.
So it does put our medicines at risk. Now, I suppose you're watching it and you're asking, well, why do we have such a shortage of these medicines? It's not really very clear as to why that shortage is there, but one of the points that was made is that the HSE is actually paying less than other countries, putting Ireland at a disadvantaged commercial, I suppose, stance with some of the other countries. But it just sees there's a lot of people that are sick over Christmas. I think we probably knew everybody was either sick or knew somebody who was ill. And of course, that means you're going to the pharmacy, you're buying your whatever it is to make you help you feel better. And so stocks are running low.
With increased globalisation of the pharmacy supply as well, you've got a lot being made by a few companies around the world. So they're choosing where it goes, which puts us all at a disadvantage. And also, as you mentioned here, we don't do unlicensed products. Unlike, you know, when we go to Spain and you're like, grab that, grab that, grab that, because they have everything there. Or up north, you'd be like, can you get some of this? So is that something that we're going to, lads, we have to start looking at how we do all of this and start going? Like, why don't we have more unlicensed products here?
I think if we start seeing actual empty pharmacy shelves, people are going to start saying, OK, well, my child is sick, I cannot get Calpol anywhere, or I have to maybe buy it online for triple or double, you know, the price. Then we're going to have to, I think, take a serious look at it. We haven't really heard very much from even Ministers for Health talking about it, saying, oh, we have a shortage of medicines, what are we going to do? Because I feel like this is a reoccurring story. We kind of hear about it every so often, that we're running low on this or we're running low on that.
I kind of feel is this like the toilet roll situation during COVID, but whenever you have a pharmacist in the UK saying Calpol is virtually non-existent in some areas. As a parent who has a holster with 2 Calpols literally ready to go at any stage of the night, I mean, what would you do? What would you do at home if you had no Calpol? Was for the kids.
It is the answer to everything. Like.
It is 0896 111
It probably shouldn't be.
Hey, the pink stuff is good.
Absolutely shouldn't be. But I mean, if you haven't slept, Gabia, let's move on. An NCT backlog. This is incredible. So some NCT centres, they're currently offering a place in August.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I'm in that same boat. The NCT is due next month. I logged in, I think it was for one of the test centres in Dublin. July was the next available date, and I went, wow. So yes, we're seeing this backlog now, months and months and months, even 6 months or even 8 month delay if you're trying to book your NCT test. Some parts of the country are worse than others, but the NCT, the company, is trying to tackle it. So they've recruited 44 testers from the Philippines. They've also taken people, they've spread them out across the country to try and catch up on that delay. Of course, if your car is older than 4 years, you need to have past your NCT. And
which is interesting for cars that are made to perform at an optimum level for a very long time. But 4 years, if you're a cab driver, it's all the time.
Now, if you are stopped on the road by a guard and they say, well, your NCT is 8 months expired, what's the story? You have to show a proof of, I have my next text booked. So they actually are taking that into account. Now, you could try and play the system, even if you log into the NCT booking system and you say, OK, well, I don't want to do the test in 2 months. sure, I'll wait another 6 months. There's a date there for August. I'll just book it for August.
So for you with yours, that you've obviously been given a date in July.
Yes.
If you can show that booking to the guard, you're okay then, isn't it?
Yes, because they say, OK, that's fair enough. We know there's a delay, but at least you've got proof. I think if you have maybe like the screenshot of your phone, or even if they send you a letter saying your date is in August, if you have that in the car with you, then the guards say, well, that's proof of you that you are going to do the test eventually.
It's always been interesting with the NCT. I once brought my car, it failed. My father brought it back 2 days later. We didn't do anything to it and it passed.
Why did he do that?
Because we knew there was nothing wrong with the car. I was like, I have no idea why this failed. And he went, I'll bring it back and we'll just see, put it through. And you're like, what's happened there now, lads? Why did that pass and it failed with me?
The Indo actually did. I think it was a story over Christmas where they actually looked at all the pass rates in all the centres. Some of them have really quite, I think nearly maybe 70% pass rate. I think Castlerin's comment was around from, that was actually one of the worst, that people fail it the most, which is quite incredible because it should all be nearly the same throughout the country.
It's probably a numbers game. Had to tick the box.
Make a lot of money on the NCT there, so they do. Any NCT stories for us? 0896 111 111. You brought someone else brought it the next day and you're absolutely fine. It's mad.
I can't believe you brought it the following week.
It's a risk. You just
He got an appointment. He said, there's nothing wrong with that car. I'm bringing it back out and I'm not going to the mechanic.
I love his confidence. I wouldn't.
Confident, fair play.
Gabby Gattagasfeta from the Irish Independent, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Still to come this morning, we're going to be getting a lesson on how to be happy with the Doctor of Happiness himself, Dr. Andy Cope.
Plus, Deric is set to give Don Conroy a run for his money. He's doing a bit of art. We'll talk to you shortly. Welcome back. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline, hundreds in hospitals while 1,000 care home beds empty. About 1,000 nursing home beds lie empty across the state, according to a new survey, whilst hundreds of well patients remain in hospital due to a lack of discharge options.
200 key medicines now out of stock as supplies dry up. Drugs needed by patients for blood pressure and serious pain are among a range of over 200 medicines now out of stock amid a growing shortage of essential treatments. A new index reveals today. That's the front of the Irish Independent.
The Daily Mail leads with the same story. Parents fear for supplies of Calpol, as does the Herald. Their headline, critical mess.
The Examiner leads with Ireland must host climate refugees. The asylum system will have to be expanded to include a new category for people fleeing effects of climate change, the Integration Minister has said.
The Mirror goes with Tommy's rank joke. A shocked RT presenter walked out of Tommy Tiernan's stand-up show on Friday night over his opening gag. Emer O'Neill said her heart sank when the comedian compared animals in Dublin Zoo's African savannah to taxi drivers during his routine at Vicar Street.
The Star leads with tears for Paddy. Model Claudine Keane has led tributes to her uncle Paddy Palmer, who died from injuries sustained in an alleged hit and run.
And Paddy for years was the voice of Cork GAs. Our condolences to his family. And finally, The Sun leads with no country for bold men. Jonathan Dowdall's admittance to the Witness Security Programme is being held up because no country will take him, it's understood.
Now, we were talking earlier about the hospital situation with Marie O'Connor in earlier, who took her 88-year-old mother to hospital. They sat and waited for 27 hours to be seen in there. We have a message from Hillary, who said, my mother, 86, was on a trolley for just as long as that woman in A&E, but that was in 2016. There is literally no change. Irish governments cannot deal with their own people effectively and compassionately. It's been seen time and time again. And Dr. Mick Molloy pretty much said that he's been calling for this 25 years.
And he also said that one thing we didn't get to discuss, he's like, we've never seen children on trolleys before, and now in our children's hospitals you've got children on chairs and in trolleys. He's like, that's never happened.
It's quite frightening, that.
It's terrifying what's going on there.
Particularly when they can't even get Calpol, which is the story of the Indo.
My father is 89. He has Alzheimer's. He was taken into hospital early last year due to a fall. He spent 22 hours in A&E alone. Bear in mind, he's got Alzheimer's. He never got over it and is now in a nursing home. I guarantee you this time next year you'll be having the same conversation with your viewers and guests. Absolutely nothing will change. So due to COVID, he had to go in there by himself. What?
Yeah, no, it's frightening, some of the stories coming through. An awful lot of messages to go through on that. We're also asking about Prince Harry. We put it up there on a poll. Should Prince Harry stop oversharing? Is he oversharing? Yes or no? Do just scan the little QR code, take your camera out, hold it over that little QR code in the corner and have your say on that. We have a lot of messages on this. Matilda, I think Harry is so jealous of his brother that he wants to make William look bad. Every family has ups and downs. William lost his mother too, and I'm sure he feels a loss just as bad. It's all about jealous and money for Harry.
And Jenny says, why can he not share his side? That family have been sharing their stories for years. It's his turn. 0896 111 111. We were also talking about the NCT. So it's going to be like 8 months to get an NCT. Sam says, I brought my car up to the NCT. It failed on one tyre. I went off, got it sorted, brought it back because you get a free retest to bring it back within a certain date. And they failed it on a different tyre. They didn't mention anything about the other tyre in that. The NCT get away with far too much, says Sam.
Erica said, I waited 8 months, no fault of my own. Had the test done, passed, but the certificate only for 7 months because of the due date. Not my fault. I had to wait, but had to organise another test ASAP to keep up with the dates. They are making huge additional fees because of this. Everyone have to play catch up.
I forgot about that. So if you're waiting for it, your NCT lasts a certain amount of time, they don't backdate it. So they're like, no, you were meant to get it then, so it's there. So then you've got to go back again and they make more money.
And we did have a question about if you have an accident without an NCT. Is it still, because if you show that you have a booking for an NCT test to the guards, if you're pulled, you're okay. But if you're in an accident, is your insurance
it has to be covered.
Null and void?
But it has to be covered. Like, there's nothing you can do.
If you do know this, get in touch. We'd love to
Google.
hear that. 0896 111 111. Get in touch with any things we're talking about. Now,
happiness.
Constant happiness can sometimes seem like an impossible task.
After the break, we'll be finding out the hacks for happiness. There's a hack for everything, isn't there? Dr. Andy Cope will be with us. Talk to you shortly.
Well, the festive period is officially at an end.
Took all the trees down.
I know. Many people are going to be suffering with the January blues.
Here to give us his happiness hacks. We need a dose of happiness. It's Doctor of Happiness, Andy Cope. Good morning, Andy. It's lovely to chat to you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And I've got my green T-shirt on today, just for you.
I love that. A nod to Ireland. Nice. We love that. Andy, I think we all know, and we hate to talk about it, but there are increasing levels of, sadness and depression in the world from every study that's done about younger people and older people. Feels like we're getting more unhappy every single year. What's going on?
Yeah, well, particularly this time of year, isn't it, where the January blues do seem to be a real thing. It's a combination, isn't it, of the weather, the lack of daylight, the gas bills, the health service crisis, the post-Christmas blues, and the fact you've not got a holiday until Easter or the summer. So it does get on top of people. So I think if there's a world shortage of happiness, what I've basically done for about 20 years is I've researched a subject called positive psychology, which is essentially the science of happiness and the science of well-being. So, and I've actually got a doctorate in it, which is a bit weird. And I am socially aware enough to understand that Doctor of Happiness is a terribly cheesy title. But I think there's never been a more appropriate time to raise the well-being bar.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% agree with you. I mean, something I like to do is to get out, go for a walk, take the dog for a walk. But I was actually out with my wife over the weekend and it was miserable. It was so wet, it's so grey. And she turned to me and said, January really sucks, doesn't it? I mean, there is the January blues. It is such a thing. It's after the whole excitement of Christmas and New Year's. Have you any tips to try and bring a bit of light into the start of the new year?
Yeah, I think. Look, I want to give you tips that are a little bit different to what you've heard before. I mean, can we go with this one for a start? I think one of the things that I'm going to be doing this year is cutting down on my screen time. If I give you some stats, right, I've just sorted out some stats for you, right? Get this, and you can tick the ones you're guilty of, all right? The average person now looks at their phone 150 times a day. And we think, that's not us. Well, it is, but we're just doing it subconsciously. Super users, who are generally under 14, 58 times a day. 71% of people check their phone very first thing when they wake up. 35% of people check their phone while driving, even though it's illegal. 64% of people use their phone on the toilet, and a third of those people have dropped their phone down the toilet. I don't know if you're guilty of that. Two more. 61% of people have texted somebody in the same room as them. And 36% of people, the monsters, would rather give up their pet than their phone. All right. Now, I think they're really sad statistics. The average phone usage now is 2 hours 54 minutes a day. That is 44 days a year. Here's one. 3% of people sleep with their phone in their hand, all right? That smacks of addiction to me. 44 days a year that we're scrolling on these things. And if you want to have a fantastic 2023, then treat yourself to a different 44 days. You know what I mean? Less screen time. And here's something else from the science of positive psychology. It's called the Dunbar number, because I know you like a bit of science. The Dunbar number basically means that you spend about 40% of your life with 6 people, between 6 and 8 people. So we've all got this tribe, this clan, this community, this really close family. You spend about 40% of your time with 6 people. And then there's a slightly wider circle of another 6 that you spend another 20% of your time with. So you're spending around 60% of your life with a hardcore group of about between 12 and 15 people. So rather than 44 days on this, 44 days in the same room as that person with your phone in your pocket, making eye contact, that is where your happiness really will reside.
So not texting them.
Toilet, do you use the phone on the loo?
Listen, don't have a go with using your phone. It's the only time I get a bit of peace to go on the phone.
If you've got young kids, it's like hiding inside. Are you hiding
in a minute?
It used to be, it was like, oh, he obviously ate something bad. Now it's like, I just want to text my mate back. Hey, if you're that parent and you have dropped your phone down the loo because you just wanted 5 minutes to yourself, we'd love to hear from you. 0896 111.
But it is so true. Some of those statistics, it's quite frightening.
Because I put a limiter on my phone last week when I saw how much time I was spending on Instagram. It was over 2 hours a day, and I was like, I can't deal with this. It's really bad. And then I started noticing unconsciously I was picking up my phone. So I'm trying to stop at that now that I've become aware of it. So it is trying to do one little thing. Like I pick up my phone and I'm putting it back down now.
Well, 44 days a year. I mean, if you invested those 44 days in actual real relationships with real people, because the positive psychology, the science of happiness, it tells us what we already know, is that happiness is related to people rather than products. So if everybody watching this got a pen and paper and wrote down the top 20 happiest moments of their life, then I would hazard a guess that there won't be any products on that list. That will be experiences that you've had with your close friend, with your Dunbar number people. Right? Really, really simple experiences, probably with no Wi-Fi. So I really think that maybe 2023 is the year of having more experiences with those people. And can I just give you something you've never heard before, right? And it's called the Jonah complex. It's new to me, so I might stumble over it. But the Jonah complex, and Jonah apparently was the guy in the Bible who got swallowed by a whale. That is a bad day, all right? But if you look at the Jonah complex, it's actually around human potential. So when you come out your mum's tummy on day 1 and you're this old, the potential of every single human being at 1 day old is massive. But then we get to age 56, like I am, and sometimes we feel we haven't fulfilled that potential. Now, this is a Bible thing, right? And I'm not a particularly religious person, but here we go. Jonah, apparently in the Bible, was a very timid merchant, and God asked him to do a big thing, right? And because it was Jonah just thought, well, I'm just Jonah. I can't do this big thing, God. You must mean somebody else. That's a really big task. It's just little old me. I'll decline. So Jonah said no. And Jonah basically preferred to play small. And the Jonah complex basically means that to achieve big things, to be our best self, it's not that we can't do that. It's that we daren't. We almost become afraid of our own amazingness. And it's easier to fit in and play small rather than actually shining and daring to pass that glow to other people. But I would put to your listeners and your viewers is, what's the point of aiming for a mediocre 2023? What would be the point of aiming to be a mediocre TV presenter? What would be the point of aiming to be a mediocre teacher or a mediocre student? So 2023 is use those extra 44 days that you're going to get that you're not swiping on your phone to set yourself what I call a huge, unbelievably great goal. Something massive, something on the edges of achievability. Not a piffling little thing you can achieve by next week, but something that excites you. Because we've been locked down for about 2.5 years. Let's go large.
I do. Well, it's the Jonah complex, and why not aim big? And in terms of New Year's resolutions or setting goals, because we were kind of having this argument, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do you think setting goals is, constantly through the year, it doesn't have to be in a January thing? Do you think it's always a positive thing for a bit of happiness?
out of my own research, then goal setting is a thing. Is that so? Positive people, happy people do tend to have a fire in their belly, and that fire in their belly comes from them setting huge goals, big goals, not little goals, big things that you can't achieve in 6 months. It might be a year, it might be 5 years down the line. To write your novel, to play for Ireland, mate. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is, but it doesn't matter what the goal is, but it has to be something that puts a fire in your belly that's worth getting out of bed for. I'd seriously supersize your goals. Don't mess around. Let's go for it. Jonah Complex says far too many people are playing small. Look around at what everybody else is doing and don't play small. Don't do that.
I love it. Don't do it.
There you go.
Dr. Andy Cope, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
to you
Tommy,
as
will
well.
you set some proper goals? Play for Ireland, for God's sake.
That's it. What am I going to do?
Seniors.
Let me at him. Love that. Love Dr. Andy Cope.
I
Gives
do,
you
he's
just a
fab.
bit of buzz that we needed this morning. If you have any hacks of happiness that work for you, I'd love to know them as well. I'm mad into this. So 0896 111 111, please do get in touch with us.
I'll talk to you shortly on Ireland AM.
Now it is, of course, a new year. If you're looking for a savoury, healthy option, help is at hand.
Hello, Jack. What are you making for us today?
I always feel so weird when you say healthy and then Jack in like the same sentence.
How much butter have we got in this one today?
They took it off me coming out of the car park.
Terrible.
No, you said healthy, no
There you
butter.
go. New year, new us.
So what are we making?
No butter, not better.
What are we making?
We're making jerk chicken rice bowl.
Okay, lovely.
But what this is all about is it's more like, because I know myself when people ask me when in the first week in January, like, how do I go healthy? Do you know, and you just, between chefs, nutritionists, foodies, whatever, we just knowledge dump and people just leave more stressed than when they asked you. For me, this is my ethos when it comes to healthy eating. It's all about balance and moderation. Good chunk of carbs, good chunk of protein, and something with a bit of flavour in it, just to kind of make it easier to eat. Because if you go for a healthy kick and it's pure torture, it's going to be hard to keep it.
Yeah.
You're going to give up after a week or 2 days. And you're going to spend an absolute fortune in the shops, buying all this fancy organic stuff, whatever, and then you're going to end up throwing it out in your spring cleaning in February, right? Anyway, to get this started, I have some rice here cooked off in a pot, some whole grain brown rice. So that's your carbohydrates, that'll fill you up and it's good. And if you're going to go healthy, replace all white carbs with brown carbs if you can. Yeah. Brown pasta instead of white pasta, brown rice and so on, quinoa. And all I do to give it a bit of flavour is when I'm cooking my rice, just like you would normally at home, I put a squeezed lime that I've already used to make my dressing with, popped in some coriander, filled it with water, cooked it. And you get that lovely coriander lime scent off it.
Yum.
Now, for the jerk chicken, really simple at home. Grab yourself a jug or a blender, and inside that I have some scallions, roughly chopped up. I put in some sage. The recipe that I have posted online is actually thyme. It's supposed to be thyme. But thyme in my garden is dead, so I just use sage instead. Typical me. And some coriander stalks. In on top of that, some garlic and ginger paste. A good, hefty amount of it. And this marinade is going to double as a sauce and as a marinade.
I presume you could put proper garlic or ginger in there.
Yeah.
So
No, I blitzed them up last night in the blender at home just to make my life easier in here. So my fingers don't stink of garlic and ginger all day. I'm posh now. Soya sauce and honey that I've already mixed together. So that's your salty umami kick and your sweetness. Some jerk seasoning mix that you just get in your supermarket or your local Asian shop. Some lime zest. And I have some lime juice already in there as well. A nice hot chilli. Alan's not here, so I can load it up.
Oh, no.
And then some extra virgin olive oil. Pour that in. Good glug of it.
Oh, yeah.
Get your stick blender, or if you have a NutriBullet or whatever you have at home, and just give it a buzz. Just get it all together, nice and rustic.
There's your marinade and your sauce, is it?
And the sauce,
Lovely.
yeah. Now, like, you could put whole pieces of garlic and ginger in it. It'll just be tougher on the blender.
Okay.
And that's it, then.
it.
Once it's roughly smooth, like, it's okay to have a few lumps of herbs and stuff in it.
Yeah.
You know, and then just pour it in over your chicken. Now, the chicken you can see here, it was a full breast that way, and I just cut it straight down at a kind of a horizontal cut it in half. That'll help it grill up nice and quickly as well. So pop in some of your marinade. Ideally, leave that overnight.
Yeah.
But look, this is the magic of TV.
Yeah.
So that's the chicken.
Very easy, isn't it? It's, instead of going out and buying a sauce, you know, buying a packet, buying a sauce like that.
When you buy those condiments in supermarkets, I love condiments. I have 2 shelves in the fridge dedicated to condiments, but they're pumped with sugar.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, pop it in, like so. Make sure your extraction fan, your expilator in your house is on full blast, because that chili is going to hit the back of your lungs and make you start coughing. And all you're doing is 1 to 2 minutes on each side, and it's done. If it's a nice, massive chunk of chicken, it needs to be cooked more, just put it onto an oven tray, into the oven for 2 to 3 minutes, and it's done.
Okay.
It's simple as that. Like, it's really quick and really easy. Now,
have you got something on the side as well?
Yeah, I have a lovely salsa to put on the side with it as well. It's class, right? So I'm just going to pick out the coriander and the lime. And look, loads of people don't like coriander, so don't put it in if you don't like it. I'm easy going that way. You can put in rosemary or whatever instead. It's going to do some little mini rice bowls, and this is perfect for meal prep as well. Because if you can cook a healthy dinner at night time, and then you can also have a healthy lunch, so you're not going to the deli counter, you're not getting the goujon roll, the sausage rolls, the jambons. Tell I'm a fan of the old deli.
Dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you go into a petrol station now, there is no healthy options there.
No.
I mean, like, you do have to kind of pre-prepare stuff, don't you?
I end up drinking those, you know, those pre-made, bought off the petrol station drinks cabinet protein shakes, and like a protein bar, because that's, and a fruit pot, you know?
Oh, yeah, of course there is the fruit as well, yeah.
Now,
Really helpful.
chicken is grilling away there nicely. In a bowl here, I have some diced pineapple, some diced red onion, and some chopped up cherry tomatoes. In on top of that, I'm going to put in some lime juice. I've already some lime zest in there. Give that a good squeeze. Good drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. Give it a mix. Season up with salt and pepper. And that's the salsa done and finished. Really easy. That'll last for 3 days in your fridge.
Oh, great.
Then the avocado. What would be a healthy millennial meal without an avocado in it? So then with the avocado, just cut it in half, give it a squeeze, scoop your spoon all the ways around. Out it comes like that.
There's actually loads in this dish, isn't there?
There is, yeah.
And then I have some fresh coriander, roughly chopped. You don't like coriander, do you?
No, I do, yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We're happy. Throw
Right.
whatever's going.
That's fine there, then.
Monday morning.
Now,
Alan's back tomorrow, so that everything will be bland.
No
tomorrow.
fish.
No fish, no chili.
Chop it up nice and rough.
So how would you meal prep this? Would I be able to reheat it, kind of, say that bowl, whenever you put everything together? Do you freeze it? Do you stick it in the fridge? Like, how do
I
you...
just stick it in the fridge. Look, you know those kind of lovely Pyrex glass lunch boxes?
Yeah.
Leo Radko posted his fridge.
Oh, did you? Keep the lid on, though.
I just keep the salsa off and keep the avocado away. Put them in a smaller one because you can't microwave them. Now, to that, I'm going to defend him, right? When I saw that picture, I went, well done. He went to the cookery school that I used to run in the city centre. So I goes, he's learnt from me.
Why?
He keeps the lids off because if you put warm food into your fridge with a lid on, it's going to ferment in its own heat inside in the fridge, and it's going to go off and it's going to give you food poisoning.
You're not meant to put warm food in the fridge.
You can. It's almost like a blast chiller. You have to bring food down to a safe temperature as quickly as possible. So in the kitchen, we always have blast chillers. So you wheel your food in and it blasts the temperature down. So it goes from being hot to being fridge temp, like 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
Within 5 minutes. And he was doing the exact same. He emptied his fridge, put everything in, open, blasted it down.
Hold on.
And I still sat back on Twitter and watched the whole world take him apart.
Right, come on, let's have a look at this. Right, OK, so he's got it to room temperature and then puts the lid on.
Pretty much. Get it down as cold as you can and then put the lid on. Like, so if I walked into a kitchen and a chef had put, like, a pot of soup into the cold room, wrapped in cling film tightly, and the soup was still warm, I'd probably just throw the soup over their head.
But hold on, I'm just saying, just in case anyone does this, at home, if you're just after cooking a chicken, you're not meant to put it directly into the fridge then. Leave it out and let it cool down, right?
Ideally, leave it cool down, because a domestic fridge, you'll break it if you put something piping hot in. Yeah, so, like, let it calm down a little bit for, like, 15, 20 minutes, but your food has to get into the fridge in less than 2 hours. That's the legal law.
Let's try this.
It has to get into the fridge in 2 hours.
Well, let me give you some sauce.
Which is fine. 2
Let me give you a
hours.
drizzle.
It'll be nicely calm down then.
There we go. Learned something new this morning.
I know, yeah.
There you go.
Thanks, darling. Let's go.
So that's my healthy jerk rice bowl.
Delicious.
Not bad for healthy food.
Really
You're
delicious.
sick of chicken and rice.
Yeah.
The lime is lovely with the rice. Delicious. Jack O'Keefe,
Love it.
thank you so much.
Nailed it. Thank you very much. Now, after break, we're going to be unveiling Deric's artistic side. Did he do it? Did he not? We're going to find out after the break.
Hello, welcome back to Ireland AM. We've got some messages that you have been sending in about goal setting. We're talking about 44 days a year is what's apparently wasted on average on your phone. So a message in here that says, on New Year's Day, I deactivated my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I haven't looked back. I've got more time to read, found myself in better form. I'm sleeping like a teenager and having a better general demeanour. It's amazing how quickly that's kicked in.
It is true. A digital detox. Marion said she's doing that as well. Being consumed by social media and constant bad news will only bring your mood down. 100% agree.
There are some,
100%.
you know, sometimes when we're here and we've got all the bad news, like first thing in the morning when we're reading through things, and
But
you're
that's
like,
what the news is. I mean, you stick on the news, there's never anything good there.
Yeah.
David said, this year I have set myself a goal of running a half marathon in Achill Island. Training starts this week. Good luck with that, David.
nice
Fair play
place
to
to
you.
do a half marathon as well,
Right.
isn't it? Fantastic. Paddy, my goal this year is to increase my energy levels. Mind you, working out on cold January mornings will test anyone's goal setting. Of course it is. We were talking as well about Harry and his big interview last night on Virgin Media 1. You can watch it on The Player as well, by the way. We're just wondering, should Harry stop sharing his story? A message here. Is there one there from Pat?
If Harry is all about being a normal family, what kind of normal life are his kids having? While he and his wife spend all their time chatting or chasing publicity, I think their kids will be needing therapy from all Harry's oversharing and victim mentality.
And he did talk last night about how his father did say to him he wished he'd got him help earlier
on
with his mental health, like after
Poor
his mother had
guy.
died.
Like, listen, whether you agree with what they're doing and what not, I mean, the guy is going through a lot of trauma and is really struggling out there as well.
So there's a thing there if you want to vote. If I think it's just sharing. I don't think he's oversharing, but that's just me.
I think he's oversharing. There's some of the stuff in that I don't think you need to know. So, yeah, yes or no. Let us know what you think.
That pub is going to get loads of bus tours this summer, isn't it? Where he had a good time out the back of the pub.
Oh, out the back of the pub. I know. Anyway. Right, all morning he's been channeling his inner Don Conroy, and now this is the moment of truth.
Deric, have you done a real painting? You know we're not going to believe you either way.
Coming to a car boot sale near you very, very soon, guys. No, I'm only joking. Look, I can't reveal it just yet because I'm about halfway through, aren't I, Catherine?
Oh, halfway through, yeah.
We're flying. Can we say a big good morning to everyone here this morning, Balgriffin, Dublin Art Class? Good morning, girls. Hey! Catherine, let's talk about painting as a hobby to kickstart the new year. It's a great way to start.
It's great fun. It's great fun, and it's for everybody, men, women, and I have children classes. It's fantastic. It really is good.
Now, let's talk about what we're doing here this morning. Oil on canvas. It's very messy for itself.
Extremely messy, I have to say. It's one of my most popular classes because you go home with a finished painting. You learn an awful lot about the layout. You learn a lot about the technique, definitely with the palette knife, and then we introduce brush sometimes as well. But it's all about the colour theory.
Now, let's talk about the basics, because if you are going to join the class, what would you suggest?
Drawing class, definitely Monday afternoon, 5-week course, and then I have a colour theory course online, which is a 5-week course. You combine the two, which is a foundation course, and then basically you join a painting class.
And it's all about getting your basic colours right,
yeah.
And understanding colour theory.
Colour theory, understanding it, and express yourself with colour. As you can see when we reveal this one.
A little bit later on, we're getting there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Mary, you're from the not-so-sunny southeast this morning for County Wexford. Tell us about the exhibition there behind you.
This is the centenary 1922 through the artist's eyes. 9 of Catherine's students interpreted their own version of the treaty itself, and they were born from individual stories from their grandparents, grandmothers. For example, my own grandmother was an old IRA sympathizer, and she would have wanted...
That's your one there behind
us
in the black frame.
And I've depicted the fractured Ireland, the 6 counties and the rest of the Republic.
And the Union Jack in behind it. Countess Markovich there.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, where would we be without the women? You know, they don't get much exposure, but we have them here. We have the Lavery, Lady Lavery, we have Countess Markovich. And you see the lady there with the baby, that's the hope for the future. You know, the hope for the future is really through women.
And where is that exhibition on, Mary?
This exhibition is going to be in the Public Library on Ballymun Road for the whole month of February.
And free
opening
to the
on the
public.
and open
free
to the
to
public.
visit.
Free to visit, and we'd love if the children from the primary schools would come in and have a look at it.
Okay, great. Now, Catherine, we have a work of art ongoing here this morning.
No, it's going very well.
We're going to do a little bit of a reveal a little bit later on.
Yeah, about half an hour at least.
Yeah, give us half an hour. I know Tommy and Werner are expecting something very quickly, but a masterpiece takes a little bit of time.
It does. Now, this is much more challenging than the last two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we show them what we're doing at home, the viewers at home? That's exactly what we're doing. What
beautiful,
are we painting?
We're doing a seascape dolly mount on the north side view, and it's alla prima, painting all at once.
Painting alla prima, that's how we like to do it. Where can we find you online?
Dublin Art Classes and all the social media platforms.
Okay, you're even on TikTok.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
All right, so there you have it, guys. We'll continue on with our painting masterclass here this morning. I'm about just over halfway through, so come back to us in around 9:30 for the big reveal. Back to you guys in the studio.
See where...
Right,
Catherine,
let's crack on here.
No. Come on, Deric. Let us see where it is at the minute.
Oh, we're against the clock here. Oh.
Can he hear us?
No,
he's not even listening to me, is he?
Can I just say, the tune's banging in the background. Foreigner, waiting for a girl like you.
He's going to pretty much take a picture off the wall and show it.
He's going to, that one that he was holding up, this is what we're painting. That's what it's going to be. He's just going to stick it onto the canvas there.
Yeah.
We know he does it
Fair
every
play
year.
to everybody. A new year. I love a bit of painting. Good on them.
Coming up on the show, Camille O'Sullivan will be chatting about her new Dublin dream home and taking on a music idol.
Plus, we're going to put our DIY skills to the test.
Oh, no.
That's more Iron Dame coming up shortly. You're very welcome back. Now, you've been casting your vote all morning on our poll, posing the question: do you think Prince Harry, after yesterday, should stop oversharing?
Or just sharing.
Or oversharing.
We can reveal that a majority of you. At 62% think that Harry should stop, while 38% of you cannot get enough. Well, you're lucky if you can't get enough, because there's three more books coming.
I know.
It's a 4-book deal.
Meghan's going to have a book. I mean, what's
Meghan has the
from
book. You know, whatever. She could do one on her fashion.
Well,
she could
do you
one
think
whatever she wants.
William or the royals, will they say anything after, like...
I don't know, because they're part of the establishment and they haven't, so they can't really be like, I'm going to do a book now.
Well,
because Diana did the big interview.
Because some of the stuff that he said about William in particular has been pretty tough.
I think William might move into MMA. Be amazing if he's that good at grabbing people's collars.
We've all had family arguments and chats. You know, the last thing you want is somebody to go out there and actually write about it on... in a book. Jenny said there's no way back for Harry with his family after this interview and memoir. Game over. I don't know. I still do think that they'll rise above it and they will accept him back. What does he want? I just don't understand.
Well, he wants to go to the coronation and he wants to be reconciled. Joe says, I think he's right to have his say. Fair play to him. He can now control the narrative of his very own story. And I suppose when you're being trolled or bullied or whatever, and we always say, you know, you should speak out about it, that's what he's decided to do.
Well,
you don't have to consume it. Like, you don't have to buy the book. You don't have to read it. You don't have to watch anything.
Well, it is everywhere.
It is, but you don't have to consume it.
Suzanne said Harry maintains that he wants to reconcile with his brother and his father, but I don't see any way back after all these revelations, whether you're in the public eye or not. Family squabbles should never be aired in public and can never amount to a happy ending.
Oh, God. And we're always talking about people having to talk about their problems and the world's becoming a better place.
Family problems. Why would you... I don't agree that... Like, you don't want to be putting your family problems out there.
No, do you know what? We'll do a whole hour. We'll do a whole hour tomorrow on my problems.
Now, up next, we're going to be chatting to singer and actress Camille O'Sullivan. We'll see you after the break.
Known for her, wait for this now, sultry yet feisty tones, Camille O'Sullivan has made quite a unique name for herself as a singer.
Yeah, she's currently taking on the songs of the famous chanteuse Edith Piaf. Camille, you're very welcome back.
Sultry and feisty.
What is that? That's a propaganda. What's going on?
I mean, does that suit Edith Piaf?
Well, do you know what? I don't think for her, I had a kind of a different idea what she was about. And, you know, my mum is French, but I don't speak it, so there was a lot of having to get that right. But I think I had maybe a sanitised version, far more funny, far more kind of ahead of her time. And like this show is like, I think I was always joking, people who are going to the Amazing Gate Theatre, like, oh, I'd love to see Edith Piaf, going, oh my God, you know, because her life, she died young. She had like what was, she was helping in the war effort, getting people in, helping with the French resistance, get people back out of the camp. She came from the streets. She had been blind for 4 years when she was a little child. She was raised in a brothel. You couldn't make up half the things. So it's quite gritty, but people I've met, it's really joyous, the show, because she was, when she wasn't being all kind of sad about, and she truly inhabits her songs. Like, she was phenomenal. If you ever watch YouTube clips of her live, you're like, oh my God. Yeah. She was really minimal in her movement, but it all came from her, you know, quite from the soul. But when you ever see pictures of her in her life, lovely frilly little kind of dresses with a great laugh, always with humour, and lovely pictures of her in the south of France, little dungarees on, collecting flowers and stuff. So, and an amazing relationship with Marlene Dietrich, things I never knew about. So sorry, that is the Cork long... you asked me a question.
But this a lot to get into the show.
But I think it's, you know, we have a view of Edith Piaf, you know, we know the huge song, you know, the world over, and a lot of people have seen the Vian Rose with Marion Cotillard.
Yeah, beautiful.
And you see, but there was this sadness in her, and you know, kind of when she fell in love, she fell deeply, and often it wasn't reciprocated. And in the show, you're kind of showing all of that.
Yeah, it does have. I mean, I find it an amazing thing to kind of inhabit, like the luck to play a beautiful place like the Gate and Pam Jim's play, and where it's not just me on stage. I mean, there's Phelim Drew and Rory Nolan and Zara Devlin and Kate Gilmore. There's like, and Kwaku and Aoife, as you'd seen.
They were here.
And we started morphing into the characters because Aoife said, you should believe in yourself more. I says, is that you, Marlena? Or is it, you know, because we became very close as a cast. And there's probably I'm probably doing around 16 songs in the show. So, and it's quite a marathon. Like, there's a part of the thing where it shows Zara is the little sparrow. So it shows her in the life. And there's one moment we meet when I'm kind of looking back at my life in the mirror, and the whole stage is so magical. There's kind of an illusionist. When I joked to my mother's friend, she said, you know, she's very little sparrow. And I said, look, there's an illusionist in the show, Mum. She'll make me look little. It'll be okay. So I don't, you know...
No person like a mother.
It's a French way. But and, you know, I had to laugh because I was in Carrick-on-Shannon on the boat learning my French with my mum with like a bottle of Prosecco while Aidan was driving the boat. And then she was like, ooh, it's like this. I was so scared, more scared of my mother coming to the show than I was of the reviewers. So anyway, that's tangential, and I'm coming back to the show again.
Was she criticising you, though, the French?
Oh, no, but they'd always be very particular on their ways. But it is amazing, like Fergal Murray and Deric McKenna, he plays accordion, and Fergal, who I worked with years, is on the piano. It's so beautiful singing those songs, because the big fear was try not to be like a tribute act. You try and find what, like, to me, all those songs, which I didn't realise, she wrote La Vie en Rose, the words, she wrote Him L'Amour, she wrote many of them. And then the other thing she did, she didn't just go, oh, give me a song. She'd lock the guy in the room and say, I want you to write about my life, what it was like on the streets. Get in there with a bottle of wine, lock the door, 8 o'clock you came out. Now, that might be like folklore, but I'm buying it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people, like... And then she created the careers for Charles Aznavour and Yves Montand. And what was very interesting, because I always want to know, why was she in black? What was this, you know, thing? And it turned out that Yves Montand he had the checkered thing and the cowboy hat going, hey, this is how we should sing. She was like, no, wear black so they see every expression and they believe you when you sing. So I truly do think, like, there's not many singers like her. No. Like, when you watch her on YouTube, it's kind of... I was really shocked and surprised. I've always loved Jacques Brel, and, you know, with my mum being French. And the other thing which I feel, that connection to my own grandfather was in French resistance. So this whole thing, I'm kind of hallucinating, kind of thinking of my grandparents who... You know, I wish they'd been there to see this, but she really was mesmeric.
Did you say you're involved in 17 of the songs? Like, because it's a hell of a run, isn't it? Like,
I don't have time. Like, I do suffer from a bit of kind of doubt in my life and thinking. I have like 20 voices going all the time. There's always a character, Margaret, who I might have told you last time, trying to get out. I don't have time to think. I love it so much because I'm in and then I'm turning around and back on. And the joke before was, when I was rehearsing, the cast would just move me back on and say, this is your scene.
Like, in 2 days of Christmas, is that it? And you're going right through to the start of February again as well.
Yeah, and it is like there's parts of it that are very... I mean, the end of her life is so beautiful, and it's so moving. And there was a bit in it, because there's incredible makeup artists and costume people on it who kind of transform you into this person. And it shows her, like, from this young person, and then it shows her old, and then coming back to when she was in her 20s, and then the end when she's in the south of France. And I love that vulnerability in singing, and I love there's a bit in the show, Bravo Le Clown, where she puts on her makeup kind of, because she's got the years of drugs and the suicide tour. And I think I'm kind of, that's the level of my life now. And, you know, in the sense that I like that kind of stuff. I go, where?
You go over.
Well, I'm not doing it, but I'd love to go there, to be honest. I'd love to be, I feel that liberation as a performer to go, you know, and I could tell the audience are going, Jesus, she's not putting her lipstick on properly. But, you know, I like it, the madness of it. I wouldn't like to be in the sad situation she was in.
No.
But I do think, I suppose, and you know that the thing was interesting because her singing these beautiful songs during the war, like she became a kind of an icon through people needing someone to give them something to latch onto. She didn't disappear. She actually got strong. Like her audiences were more during the war, and then later on, like I think back and I think, wow, she's an icon of France now. But before her, there was nobody like her.
No.
And I always think that person who was singing on the street, when you see her perform, this little person in this massive kind of venue, theatre, she is like that little girl still, and just and that's why I think Marion Cotillard, I say that wrong, got her so brilliantly.
Is she an inspiration? Like, like even for your daughter who's only 9.
Yeah.
Do you like do you show her kind of like these songs and kind of like teach her?
I don't. Well, she sings around.
Women.
She's like me too. We were both like. Funnily enough, I loved singing. Lila loved singing, but quite shy. Like it's kind of like singing. And once you're caught, you stop singing. Yeah. But I find her so inspirational, and I think ahead of her time. Because and this best friendship that she had with Deric is so unusual for 2 major icons, 2 women. Like you know, it's usually not the done thing, and to be at the wedding, and then when she died, she was the leader.
Their story is fascinating, and what Marlena did even in Hollywood is fascinating. This is PF. It's running in the Gate Theatre until Saturday, the 4th of February. How is life otherwise? Because this is really intense. Lila and yourself she's robbing all your stuff. You're telling me.
Basically, I've been left with Claire's accessories, makeup, but brilliant. The tights. I can't show what's going on behind these ladies and gentlemen. They look great from the front, but she's torn them all at the back.
Does she take all your? Does she play dress up all the time?
Yeah, she basically everything. I don't let her to the heels, but it's a disaster this morning looking for stuff going, I think that'll do from the front. And then I lost my handbag yesterday and everything when we were going shopping. So, no, life is good. And I feel so lucky. Like this, life is magical in the sense that I never really sang her stuff before. So I feel really lucky to kind of exist for 2.5 months in this world and you know, with these people in a cast, because it's quite lonely when you're gigging by yourself.
Yeah. And now you've got a crew.
Yeah, and I made a little, you know, I'm a bit eccentric. I made them a Santa's grotto, a Papa Noel grotto all over. Like, they were laughing at me because I was painting in the mornings because I'm watching you guys on repeat at night. My partner killed me. He says, morning TV at night. Is this what you're doing to me? I love it. I go, I can't go to bed yet. I must watch them.
I need to see what Deric is painting. Yeah, absolutely.
I love
we all need to see that.
You can see that later. She'll be watching this later on tonight when she finishes the show. Camille, it is always a pleasure to have you inside here. We know you lost your handbag when you were shopping yesterday, so hopefully you'll find it later on today. You sent Aidan into town, did you? Your fella into town to go find it. It'll be fine. He'll find it. He'll find it. It has been a pleasure talking to you. PF runs until the 4th in the Gate Theatre in Dublin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup.
It's not more Ireland Day to come see you shortly. Well, the time has come. It is time to go back to Deric to reveal the work of art.
We left him for 2 seconds. Deric!
Come on.
Oh, lads, are you ready for this now? You ready for this? Okay, so in 3, 2, and 1, ta-da! There we go. So what is this, Catherine?
Well, this is an alla prima painting, as you know, we've done in 2 hours, and is an atmospheric painting and extreme contrast with colour. It definitely was an artist's challenge.
It was a challenge. The towers there, the Poolbeg chimneys there. Your best advice you could give anyone who's starting out painting?
Well, definitely start off with the drawing classes and keep on looking all the time. Observation is the key.
And you always say to me, you're like, Deric, step away
from the canvas.
Can we have a big cheer from everyone here? Look at all the beautiful artwork. And of course, we're going to be displaying in the National Art Gallery very soon, aren't we?
Next year. The Tate.
Yeah, absolutely, the Tate. So there we have it, guys. I hope you like it. These are all for sale, by the way. I'm joking. All right, I hope you like it. There's our artwork. That's what we created in 2 hours here this morning. And Tommy, did we not do this from scratch? Yes, we did. Tommy.
We definitely
Those
did.
who haven't seen shall yet believe.
Didn't we? Wink, wink. No, fair play, Deric.
Fair play.
That's very impressive.
I put
that up in my house. I think that's gorgeous. Now,
I'll tell you what, no,
you think it was
saying much.
Do you think?
To be fair play to Deric.
Saying about the state of my house, it is a clip. Do you think it was numbers? Paint by numbers. Is that what you don't believe
if he did do that, that is very impressive. He's wasted as a weather presenter.
Doubting Thomas over here. Well done, Deric. Make sure you bring it back into the office. We'll hang it up somewhere. Now, a brand new series, a new TV show is starting tonight on Virgin Media 1, and it sees people with no underlying symptoms. They head in for a checkup.
But how healthy are they really? There's a clip here from the clinic for well people. Let's take a look.
So I'm just looking at the blood vessels here. Do you know how your blood pressure is?
Kind of borderline.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes we see signs of high blood pressure in the back of the eye because this is one of the few places you can look at the vasculature without disturbing it. It's non-invasive. So just here, if you can see where you have an artery crossing over a vein.
Yep.
That the vein is kind of pinched in a little bit. We call that nipping. So that sometimes would mean that there's a lot of pressure in the blood supply in this artery and it's kind of pushing down on the vein a little bit. And so that could indicate high blood pressure. So it's definitely something you'll want to kind of look at today.
Very interesting. Joining us from the clinic for well people is resident optometrist Una O'Carroll. Good morning to you, Una. It's great to have you with us. So that was a patient who's come in thinking that all clear, all good. Yeah. But obviously picked up on something.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris is in the Irish Army, very active, healthy lifestyle, had no medications, no underlying conditions or anything, and so went through a gamut of tests, and that's kind of the premise of the show. You come in healthy and you go through a series of tests, including blood checks and an eye exam and hearing test, and just to see if everything is really okay. So Chris was very interesting, actually.
So you talked there about hyper, because I would think if I'm going for an eye test, it's because I need it for driving or I need to get glasses. You know, the 20/20 vision is gone. I wouldn't think, like you're talking about hypertension there and seeing blood pressure issues.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't diagnose that from an eye exam, but there's a lot more to an eye exam than people realise, I think. So we're obviously checking the vision with your glasses and your contact lenses, but we're also looking at the health of the back of the eye, and that's very reflective of what's going on in the rest of the body as well. So we're screening for eye diseases, so glaucoma, macular degeneration, retinal detachments, but also when we're looking at the blood vessels at the back of the eye, certain systemic diseases can show up, like hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, even MS can be discovered through an eye exam.
So, I mean, it's a great premise. I love this, that when we were seeing what's going on in the health system and the chaos there at the moment, do you think it would be good for more people to go in and get an MOT, even though they feel 100% right, that actually prevention is potentially better than cure?
Absolutely. That's, I suppose, something I really hope people take home from the show, is to be proactive about your health. Don't wait until you have a problem to go and see your GP or your optometrist or your dentist. Go for your regular checkups so that you can discover any issues that might be there at a really early stage. And really, technology has advanced so much that we're picking things up so much earlier now, and that means they're much more treatable. And as you say, prevention is absolutely better than cure.
Because I know, like Alan Hughes, he's brilliant for going for his MOT every year, and I wouldn't go to the doctor unless there's something wrong with me, because at the same time you're looking at a health system whereby you can't get a GP appointment, and GPs are like, oh God, if you don't have to come to us, don't come to us. So like this is all tied up in it, and people do want to be healthy and kind of do stuff that when people were coming into this, were they worried? Like, you know, because you're like, I'm going about my daily life, I'm grand, and sometimes you're just like, oh, I don't want to know. Do you know that sort of way?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I think the regular checkups are important. In the long run, it actually saves our health system so much money. Of course it does, because, you know, people are well for a lot longer. But coming into the show, a lot of people were just really interested to find out where their health stood. Some people were very worried, and I think it was kind of maybe a background thing that had been worrying them for a long time, and they just pushed themselves in to do this show to just say, right, I'll just do it this way and find out everything all at once.
From a vision point of view, we were just talking to Andy Cope earlier about the pursuit of happiness, and he said how we average is at 44 days a year pretty much on our phones. Frightening. Is that doing damage to your eyes?
Well, particularly for kids, I suppose we have to be very conscious of screen time. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, have come out with some recommendations around screen time, particularly for younger children.
Why for kids is it worse?
Well, for kids, I suppose their eyes, we feel there may be a chance that they absorb more blue light, but it's more the kids tend to hold devices very close. And so that creates a situation where it encourages them to become more and more short-sighted. So short-sightedness is a real problem across the globe. And recently, our levels of short-sightedness have doubled. And,
really?
Yeah.
So it is, because we were told when we were younger, if you sit too close to the TV, you're going to get square eyes.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? It was like, we get square eyes, move away.
I tried that with the kids there recently.
But they don't, because they're holding it right here.
They're holding it right
so
here.
So they're seeing already that short-sightedness is having an effect.
Absolutely. And we know what's coming down the road, because this has happened in China and Asia long before it happened here, because they were advanced technologically before we were. Kids were on devices a lot longer before we were. So we know what's coming. Like up to 96% of teenagers in China are short-sighted.
How many?
What? Up to 96%. Yeah,
wow.
So
it's
what
incredible. Can parents do, as opposed to taking the iPads or the phones off their kids? Is there anything else that you can do?
There's two main things, I suppose. Reducing the amount of screen time where you can.
Yeah.
So they recommend no screen time at all, under 2, and between from 3 to 5, only an hour a day. Like it is very restricted. I know.
And the other option?
The other additional measure, you do the 2, is more outdoor time. So they really push outdoor time. Being outdoors in natural daylight is so beneficial for your eyes. Yeah, absolutely. So when you're on screens, it's quite artificial light, and you have this kind of very close focusing distance, and you're sedentary, you're not being active. So when you're outdoors, you naturally have this broad spectrum daylight, which is much healthier for you. You're being more active, you're looking further into the distance. So there's a few kind of things around it. So if you can have your kids outdoors for at least 2 hours a day, it makes a massive difference. You're doing a huge favour to your children down the road.
2 hours a day, okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be all in one go. It's the 15-minute walk to and from school, it's the lunch break at school being outdoors, it's whatever else you can squeeze in during the day as well.
So 2 hours on the tablets and 1 hour outside?
I would go the other way around.
The other way around. Right, it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, because we're like, is there anything to be done whereby you have to put the phones into a big thing so that it can't come near the child? But like when you're out in a buggy.
But it's a bit like what you're saying. Prevention is better than cure, because if we don't do this, we know coming down the line this is what we're going to have to expect as well.
Absolutely, and short-sightedness isn't just about glasses. It increases your risk of certain eye diseases as well. So, as I say, you're really doing your child a huge favour for later in life.
Very interesting. Listen to Una O'Carroll, of course, clinical optometrist. The Clinic for Well People is a 4-part series. It starts tonight on Virgin Media 1, Virgin Media Player. It's on at 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up next, we're giving our DIY skills a New Year's makeover. Don't go away. Now, are you looking to take up a new hobby this year? Then why not make it DIY?
Aileen Hogan from Shabby.ie is here with the perfect project for pet lovers, Aileen. Yeah, because we spent an awful lot of money on our pets. You can just do it yourself, right?
We do spend a lot of money on our pets, but last year I made a pet feeding station for my dog, right? Because I was always finding that we were kicking the bowls around and they'd always be in the way.
They get spilled and the water goes everywhere.
Exactly.
And it's disgusting, isn't it? It's like there's messiness everywhere.
Yes. So there was a 1 plank challenge on Instagram, and I decided to make this for it. And I made it out of a floorboard.
Right.
That I had in the garage from a bit of reno we did in the house.
Okay.
There's the floorboard. Now, I didn't use that side of it. I used that side of it.
Yeah, I like that.
Because that side... Well, actually, it was mainly because that was raw wood, Tommy. I didn't want to have to be stripping that down.
Okay.
I made it out of the raw wood side, which we're going to do today.
Oh, so it needed less treatment and...
Well, no, it's just that I didn't want this orangey, horrible varnish. Yep. I decided I wanted to do my own colour. I wanted a dark oak. So after I was finished it, I put on this quick drying varnish, which is a stain on a varnish in one.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
But for this, like, this is just, you've made it... Can people do it, like, if they've got... I don't know, MDFers or a certain type of wood that this would work with?
Oh, God, you can use it any bit of wood. Now, today we're going to use this. As you see, I'm always using it for different things. This is a length of 4 by 1. Right. You go into the shop, you ask for a length of 4, that's 4 inches by 1 inch, planed pine, right?
How long a length do you want?
Well, they come in standard 8 foot, 12 foot, whatever length they come in, you have to buy that length.
OK, and will that do you an 8 foot or
Oh, it
a
will,
12
yeah,
footer
it will.
Okay.
Because you're going to cut 6 pieces, right? And these 2 sides, the 2 bits for the top, are all the same length. Now, before you ask me what length, Depends on your balls.
Okay.
Because the bowls would be smaller for a cat.
Yeah,
I have a
of
dog.
course.
They're slightly bigger bowls. You just measure the length that you need, yeah?
Okay, perfect.
So the first thing we do is we make a base. And how you make the base is... I'm going to pop them over there for a second.
Oh, look, there's your dog. Is that your dog drinking from it?
That's my boy. Yes.
What's his name?
Look at
Charlie.
that. That's great.
Charlie's
Gorgeous.
a rescue pound dog.
Good on you.
Yes. So we make a base like this, and the base is made by literally screwing 4 pieces of wood together, right? But for a complete beginner, if I was to say to a beginner, screw a bit of wood together, they'd end up doing this, and they'd be trying to push it down into the wood at the same time.
Is that what you don't do? No.
That's what you don't do.
Okay.
Right? So what you should do is either use a drill to create a pilot hole, but... not everybody has a drill.
What's a pilot hole?
A pilot hole is this. See,
What,
look,
is it a guide? Like, is it like a guide?
It's a little hole in the top piece that your screw then
kinda
sticks
goes
into.
into.
Okay.
And then you can screw it in.
Okay.
But not everybody has a drill. Not everybody wants to go out and buy a drill. So there's this. Have you ever seen this?
It's for marking a hole, isn't it?
It's
a pilot
called a bradawal. B-R-A-D-A-W-L. And it basically, here's a bit of wood. Tommy, do you want to do this?
Go on, Warren's going to do it. Go on, then you get there. Warren's giving
Well,
out
it's
that
about
she didn't get
women.
the chance to do it. Women, yeah.
So you want to put a hole, say, here.
Yeah.
You're going to dig this down into the wood and you're going to turn it at the same time. It breaks
go,
the
don't need to
fibres
do it
of the
now.
wood and it creates a hole.
Okay.
Let's give it a go.
Come on, my bradawal.
No, not there.
Yeah,
Okay, leave me
anywhere.
alone.
Yeah. Sink it down into it.
And
Excellent.
that's it done.
Yeah, and look, now your screw will sit in there. So all you have to do is just guide it a little bit while you screw it down into
so a
it
bit of
with
pressure.
screwdriver.
Pressure.
So if you don't have a drill, those 2 little things
Brilliant.
costing under €10 will do.
Okay.
Okay, very good,
So
right.
we've made a little base here.
You get to do a bit of drilling next, so I know you're
Right.
about to do that. So you
Now
can
we want to make the top, and the top is 2 pieces of the 4x1 stuck together. How do you stick them together? You glue them and you clamp them. Just left them overnight. Done. Now I added a little bracket in the middle there. You see?
Yeah.
So hold on, you're gluing down in the
You're
middle.
gluing 2 bits.
Is that like no
And then
more...
you need...
to clamp it, to keep it really close while the glue sticks.
Okay.
I left it overnight.
So you need a decent big clamp.
So you
like
might
you
not
have to
have
have
a
a
you
clamp.
might not have a drill, but you
Aldi.
need a clamp. Okay.
Yeah, you
Okay.
do need a clamp. Or you can stick it between 2 heavy items just
Okay.
to push it together. Now, the most difficult bit about this, but it's not really that difficult, is to make the holes. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, you have to measure your bowl. Now, if you look here, I put the bowl down, I drew a line all the way around it. But that's not the whole size I
No,
need.
it's not.
I need this size in here, yeah?
Yeah.
So you either go in 1 centimetre all the way around, or you do like I did and you find 2 plates in your cupboard that are exactly the same size that you need.
Well done. Look at that. Okay.
I'd get that wrong. I'm sorry. I know I'd get that wrong. I know,
What
like
do you
it
mean
would.
now?
So there's
that's
your...
like, but that's it's sitting in it perfectly,
Yeah,
right?
so this is the size of the whole bowl.
Yeah.
You need to come in 1 centimetre so that the lip... Are you getting that?
No, I totally do. I just know that I wouldn't get it right. I just know.
And then you
I
either come in 1 centimetre or you get a plate and you then draw around the plate. That's all I did.
So what you don't want to do is to do this and then cut in
no,
that. Yeah,
because then the bowl's going to sink all the way through.
Lovely, lovely.
Right?
Okay, great.
So how do you cut a hole? Okay, you have to
Zoom now.
use 2 tools. You have to use a jigsaw.
Oh, come on. A minute ago we were saying...
I was just about to say, if you don't have a drill, if you got a
You have to now, to do this, you have to have something.
A jigsaw?
But hold on now. I would just say, on your road, you know the way there's always that one person that has loads of stuff.
Exactly.
If you're good friends, and I know a lot of
Yes.
people don't like lending things.
If I walk down to the garage to tell Lucy I'm going to make a dog bowl with this, she's not going to
That's for cutting your straight bits.
Oh,
initially,
right,
Tommy.
right,
That's
okay.
not for getting it around here.
Right.
You get to use the jigsaw.
There's like a little saw you can use, though, isn't there?
Yeah, there is a small little saw, but you have to... See, how do you get in initially? This is where your drill comes back in,
Right.
OK? So you have to drill 3 holes to start off.
Go on, can I have a
make
go?
big
Can
enough
I have a
gap.
go with
You're
the
going to have a
jigsaw?
go. The jigsaw, no.
Yeah.
I don't
Why?
know. Oh, Tommy, no, I don't think so.
Why not?
Go on.
You'll be able to.
What are you getting me to do?
Okay, I was going to get you to drill the thing together, to
Oh, well,
screw
I'll
it
drill
all
the thing
together.
together, 'cause we'll be out of time
you
then,
can drill
okay.
it together.
So it's just that this is a good power tool. Have you ever used it before?
Oh, yeah, I love it, yeah. Yeah, it's great crack.
Have you ever
Come on.
used it?
Are you
So
doing
this-
it?
I'll do it.
Oh, well, then I'll
There's
do it. Come on,
safety
give us a
catch.
go.
Okay, there's a safety catch
We've
here.
only a minute
and
left.
then there's the
We've
power.
only a minute left,
Okay,
so
I'm
we're-
going to put it in here for you. Hold on a second. I have to put the glasses on.
Sorry.
This has a blade that goes forward.
Oh, it doesn't go backwards.
Goes forward. You would always use a dust mat. It creates
We're
a lot
only
of
a minute.
dust.
You don't trust him at all. I love this. I thought Catherine Layden with her mixer was loud. Right, come on, let's quickly go. Let's get drilling.
Get your,
Here we
that's it,
go.
Put your screw in.
He's off.
Oh,
That's
in the
it.
wrong hole.
Sorry, did you drill into the wrong
We're in the wrong hole.
Could you not find the pilot hole,
Sorry,
Tommy?
I couldn't get the hole.
Here.
There's too many jokes. There's too many jokes.
Oh, God. Doom. There we go. Lovely. Aileen, thank you so much. Of course, we can find you. Where can we find you? Shabby.ie. I can't believe I put it in the wrong hole.
Oh, he's never done that before, lads.
Anyway, coming up on tomorrow's show, Deric is going to be live from the TSBC talking about rehoming dogs and giving them a lovely dog bowl. You can have this one.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye. Well done, Driller.